What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. I have not done an INFJ one in a while, so I figured let's go ahead and just jump right back in the saddle. Everyone experiences depression. Everyone goes through struggles, and we all handle it differently. This video, though, is just for specifically the INFJ types to better equip you to handle these lows in life. And as the video title suggests, there are obviously more than 5 ways in which one can be depressed. Here are 5, which I found to be the most common. So the first is a lack of purpose. This one is obvious, but I can't emphasize this enough, especially for INFJs, not having a clear direction, a clear sense of purpose. Not having that is a recipe for misery. And I'll admit, most INFJs are just incapable of living a normal life. And that's because of NI, introverted intuition. This is their dominant function, the first in the stack, is so strong. They're naturally in tune with this grandiose sort of vision for their life, this underlying conviction that they're made for more, for greatness, right? They're dreamers. With this inner conviction, however, comes an equivalent hatred and resentment towards anything that resembles just fake comfort and monotonous sort of lifestyle. What most people would consider just a happy, quiet, normal life, the INFJ disregards it as just repulsive. The INFJ's creative imagination is like a little capybara, this little guy that just constantly needs to be played with. The mind needs to be explored. It demands stimulation, and most importantly, it feeds off of passion. And so if the INFJ's environment is not conducive to these physiological requirements, you can bet that you're going to catch the blues. Charles Bukowski once quoted, "Find what you love and let it kill you." It's not enough for INFJs to be committed to their passions. They need to be surrendered to it, right? Second on the list is the tendency to be perfectionistic. In other words, just setting ridiculously high standards for themselves. This one is a double-edged sword because while INFJs often expect the best from themselves, they can also self-sabotage when they fail. I think this would surprise most people, but INFJs are actually one of the most competitive types. They're just not competitive with other people, it's with themselves. And they're competitive with themselves due to this SE-NI dynamic within the stack that demands perfectionism, right? It's like the problem with this, though, is that if this perfectionistic narrative takes up too much headspace, it leaves the door open for wallowing as the INFJ realizes that he or she isn't this Olympic gold medal champion that they had imagined in their mind. Last month I went and played arcade cricket for the first time, and for those of you guys that don't know what it is, basically they put you in a cage. You have this like flat bat sort of thing, and then there's this machine that shoots a ball out at you, and you have to let it bounce and you can hit it. The whole thing was just a train wreck, just an absolute disaster. I was surprisingly just awful, and I was like, man, I suck at this. End of story, right? Best piece of advice I ever read from Mark Manson was just learn how to embrace the suck. That was just one of those things where I was like, you know what? It is what it is, whatever. So the third reason, this one is also kind of a silent killer, and this one is taking on other people's expectation of you. FE, the INFJ's tertiary function, this is extroverted feeling. This relates to the relationships that an INFJ has and the desire to maintain harmony and peace in all of them. Anytime an INFJ expresses empathy or concern towards someone or a friend, this is when we see FE at play. Now, this function can also serve as one of the INFJ's greatest points of weakness, as this can turn into anxiety-driven people-pleasing and self-abandonment. And we see this in one-sided relationships where one person does all of the work, and upon first glimpse, this looks like unconditional love, but it's like if you open up the hood underneath, the INFJ's personal boundaries are just so far broken down that they're unable to function as an individual apart from the relationship. And this is exhausting. It's like you're in the middle of the ocean, right? And it's like you're sinking, and there's a hole that you don't know of in the bottom of the boat, and you're just trying to bucket water over the ledge. Sometimes you just got to let that boat sink to realize that you can swim. There's more energy being exerted trying to just shovel that overboard rather than just trying to maintain your buoyancy. Part of the growth for an INFJ is just being okay with letting people down. knowing that you aren't responsible for other people's opinions towards you is incredibly liberating. You give your power away the moment that you place someone else's opinion of you above your own. We've all heard it said that where you place your attention is where your energy goes. If I'm right with me, if I'm right with who I am, then what difference does it make if someone isn't? Just something to think about. So moving into the next one, the fourth killer is indecisiveness. Why this is particularly dangerous to the INFJ is due to what is called the NITI loop, which occurs when FE is unconsciously skipped in the decision-making process. You can kind of think of this as like the scientific method. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, man, this is actually kind of spot on, right? NI is the observation. It's the question. TI is the hypothesis. This is the observation, what you think is going to happen. FE is the actual experiment itself. This is the testable, measurable substance, the thing, right? This is an extroverted function. And then you have the conclusion, which ties everything together. Now, the problem that the INFJ gets into is instead of turning outward, instead of testing the experiment itself, the INFJ gets all logical and calculating and bypasses FE in this stack. TI, the tertiary function, this is the third, second to last, basically comes in, he asserts himself, his sleeves are all rolled up, and he comes over and he says to NI, we don't need this guy, as he spits in the direction of FE. So what's happening in this process is that introverted intuition is now defined by introverted thinking, making this decision-making process just overly analytical than it needs to be, and it's top-heavy because there's an absence of FE. You can think of these functions as if you're climbing a ladder, and FE is one of these bars that you skip over that causes you to just keep falling back down. And you might say, like, first glance, like, man, having a decision-making process without the influence of your emotions, like, that seems good. Like, why wouldn't you want that? Well, here's exactly why. The reason that this is problematic is that during this loop, the NITI loop, that information that is stored has nowhere to go. It's all recycled. Let me put it this way. So I used to sell for this life coach, and one of the things that he would always tell his clients who were just trying to think themselves out of the problem was, he said, you're never going to find the solution in the same vibration that the problem was created. So let me just further break this down and explain it a different way. If you're in America, you know that Stanley Cups have been kind of like the hot trend recently. They're known for their, this huge cup. They're durable. I think they're dishwasher safe. If somebody gave you a regular 3D printer and said, hey, here's the blueprint for the Stanley Cup, you can recreate its appearance, but it's like, that thing is never going to be metal. The 3D printer uses plastic. It's like, dude, you gotta use some metal, dog. In the same way, you have to learn to recognize and break the patterns of the analytical mind so you can enter into the feeling state, so you can create a new reality for yourself. Lastly, this one might surprise you. Another way that INFJs get depressed is due to the fact that there's often a lack of awareness in one's emotional state. What makes their emotions so difficult to handle at times is this general lack of introverted judging function in the INFJ's function stack that is able to organize these emotions. So NI, being the introverted perceiving function that it is, only allows data that extroverted sensing SE allows inward. So this makes INFJs just virtually blind to their own emotions. So NI processes the data that SE provides, and this is why it is just so important for INFJs to have a system in place that allows them to have their emotions and thoughts somewhere in the outside world, a means to extrovert this internal world out here in the open. This is where journaling comes in, verbal statements, engaging in a meaningful conversation with like a close friend. I've brought this meme up a couple times before, but INFJs are a lot of times that dog in this burning building where he just says, this is fine. No, it's not. The challenge for you is learning to break free from what's toxically familiar and do the work. So anyways, guys, that is all I've got. I hope this video helps. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.